last week. If there's a motion to approve, we'll entertain that.
There's a lot of stuff, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, there
Caught
is.
myself looking earlier. Motion approved.
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Minutes are adopted. Item number 1 under new business. Authorization to disperse from District 1 improvements funds. Councilman Wilson.
Yes, sir. Mr. Chair, I would like to take 1,000 from my district improvement fund for the Central High School football team and another 1,000 for the band to help with their needs.
Which band? Central High?
Central High School, yes, sir.
Okay.
Motion approved.
Ms. Standard is available.
Yes, sir.
Second. All in favor say aye. Aye. Item is approved. Item number 2, authorization to execute an agreement with the arbitrage group. Ms. Standards.
Thank you. Every year, we engage the arbitrage group to do arbitrage rebate analysis on all of our debt issuances. We do this for obviously disclosure within our audit and our financial statements, but then also to know if we owe any rebate to the U.S. Treasury. The amount for this upcoming year is going to be $1,500 per issuance, and so with all of our issuances, including 2022C, which is the new one for McWright's Ferry, that should total about $10,500. That is budgeted in our outside services.
Okay. Any questions?
Motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor say aye. Aye. Okay, item is approved. Number 3, general fund budget revision number 24. Ms. Standard.
Yes, sir. This item is to recognize insurance proceeds that were received for some damage at the airport, and then to create a line item for capital repairs and improvements to be made at the airport to fix those.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor say aye. Aye. Okay. Budget revision is approved. Number 4, authorization of agreement between the SC Foundation and the City of Tuscaloosa. Ms. Standard also.
Yes, sir. This item is to approve an agreement between the city and the SC Foundation for the transfer of Saban Center capital campaign funds from the SC Foundation to the city.
Wow.
And that we will then use to be able to construct the Saban Center.
Okay. For the people watching, would you give a thumbnail explanation, please, of how that relationship works?
I can. I actually want to ask Mr. Hobbs. He probably has a little bit better of a legal standpoint.
Mr. Hobbs,
of how
keep
that
it
would
short
function.
now.
Very short, yes, sir, I promise you. Essentially, the SC Foundation, the Saban Center Foundation, has been or is in the process of undertaking a capital campaign to raise additional funds to support the development and construction of the Saban Center. What we have done is drafted a very, very simple agreement. The operative terms of the agreement would be about 2 pages. And what will happen is each year, at the end of each fiscal year, the foundation will report to the city on the funds that have been collected as part of that capital campaign. And then prior to the end of the fiscal year, we'll pay those funds over to the city. The city will hold the funds and use them for purposes of the development and construction of the Saban Center and no other purpose. And those are essentially the terms of the agreement.
Okay, that's good. So it's a vehicle to raise private contributions,
Yes.
and it's a 501c3.
The foundation, yes, sir, is a 501c3.
So a vehicle to use private contributions. Those pledges come to that staff, and as the funds, which are typically laddered over multiple years, as those funds are paid into the Saban Center Foundation, at the end of the year, we get a letter from them showing what's been received, and then they transfer it over to us.
Yes, sir. I think that's a very fair description of the process.
Are there any questions?
No, sir.
Motion approved. Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, item is approved. Item number 5, we are on 5, right? Authorization for the mayor to execute an amended joint funding agreement with the University of Alabama for additional improvements to the campus area water distribution system improvement project. Ms. Standridge.
Yes, if you will recall the briefing that Mike Gardner gave during Projects Committee regarding this project, and then the transfer of funds and requirements between the University of Alabama and the City of Tuscaloosa, this is just the funding agreement that will execute those payments to be made accordingly for that project.
And are we making the payments or receiving? I hate to ask such a macro level dumb question.
We will be receiving the
We're
payments.
receiving the payments.
Yes, sir.
All right. So that evens out the item I was questioning in projects, all right?
Motion approved.
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay. Item is approved. Item number 6, Water and Sewer Fund Budget Revision number 1.
Yes, this is a request to transfer operating budgets from the operating water and sewer fund into the capital fund for the repairs to the Tuscaloosa Dam stairs and Harris Dam dredging amounts. These are amounts that were funded within the Water and Sewer Department's operating budget that's going to take longer than the fiscal year ending will, the time period is just going to like lapse over fiscal year end. And so we would like to remove those funds and set them aside into a capital fund to allow them to continue with those two projects.
And how much are we removing?
The total amount is $210,000.
Okay.
That allows it to kind of roll over into next year.
Correct.
Didn't use it in operating, parking it in capital.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Correct.
Any other questions?
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All right, item is approved. Number 6.
So the item number 6 is literally just the reverse of that. It will be depositing that transfer, that $210,000 transfer, and then creating the two projects, the Tuscaloosa Dam stairs and then the Harris Dam dredging amounts. And then we also have the budget creation for the campus area water project that Mike Gardner briefed on in projects, and then we just executed the funding agreement for it. It's just creating that budget line item.
Okay. Any
So
questions?
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, item is approved. Item number, are we on 7 or 8? What is it? 8. Item number 8, renewal of engineer's professional liability insurance, Mr. Holmes.
Yes, sir. You may recall at insurance and litigation, which I believe we had the end of August, we brought to you the renewal of our engineers professional liability insurance policy. We told you it was going to be up and due prior to the next insurance litigation committee, but we did not have a renewal price yet. At that time, y'all asked that I bring it back for finance committee once we had a price. Our premium for this year will be $19,287. Last year, our premium was $18,684 for an increase of $603, which is pretty good considering how everything's operating.
All right, any questions?
Motion approved.
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, item is approved. Item number 9, EMA video wall proposal. We have a guest today, Mr. Lawley. Welcome.
Welcome.
Welcome. We've asked you, I think Chief Smith called me about this late last week. We thought it'd be a good idea to have you come in and give us an informational brief so that we can take that away from this meeting and think it and discuss it.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. Thank you for allowing me to come speak.
Thank you for being here.
I want to introduce Ms. Tamara Dahl. She's our deputy director, and the 911 IT facilities manager, Mr. Anthony O'Neill, is behind you there. As you see in your packet, thank you for running off this packet. There's 2 pictures of our comm room that you will see there. There's a front and side view of the comm room. The 3rd page is financial breakdown. As you are well aware, we are funded 3 different ways, by the county and by both cities.
Is there a predetermined split, Mr. Lawley?
Yes, sir, it is.
There an operating split we've been living with?
Yes, sir.
What is that?
42 and a half, and then 15 from the city of Northport, which is 42 and a half from the county, 42 and a half from the city of Tuscaloosa, and
All
then
right, go ahead.
15 from Northport. So as you see, your share here, the total project would be run $160,000, which would have to be bid out. We're just trying to secure the money for this. We're writing an RFP, of course, if it gets approved. The county's portion is already approved. Northport's portion is going from their capital budget here in a couple of weeks. And as you see, the city's portion of this would be $68,000, which the reason for this project is it's kind of like having a vehicle with no inside. We have the vehicle, but we do not have the technology. We have several CADs. We have the city of Tuscaloosa's CAD. We have the counties and Northport and Spillman. We cannot view those at the present moment.
I'm sorry, I don't know what CADs are.
Basically, Anthony, can you answer that question, please?
It's a computer-aided dispatch. It allows for the dispatch of first responders to the computer program.
Okay,
Which is what, Mr. Chairman, what we do with that information is when a call comes in, let's say the fire department goes to a house, it's basically trees falling on the house, right? We take that information after the storm. It's in the city of Tuscaloosa, it's in the county, of the city of Northport. We file all that information. If it meets criteria, if it meets standards for the state of Alabama, then the city of Tuscaloosa and the county, we meet threshold, so to speak. And then the city of Tuscaloosa and the county would get money reimbursed, which is how we keep up with that. Right now, we do not, we do have a way, but it's by hand. We do not have a way to keep up with that on the computer in any kind of way.
Chief Smith, why don't you come on up? You're the adopted stepdaddy, I think, here in the city.
Yes, sir.
So, and I have to ask some basic questions because I don't know. Do we provide annual ongoing funding, or is there other? Is this a special item? Or what's our funding relationship?
This would be considered a special item. Carney might be able to address the funding issue better than I could, though.
Normally, the funding for EMA is 42.5% by the city, 42.5% by the county, and the remainder is Northport, I think 15%.
Right, he went over that. But do we give them an annual operating amount?
We do. We send the money to the county. The county EMA is under Tuscaloosa. The county EMA is under Tuscaloosa County. And so what they do is they propose a budget and they send us what they believe their annual operating costs will be.
All right.
And so we fund that in, similar to the animal shelter might be another way to think about it in parallel terms. And then, but there are certain items that are beyond the operating cost that require that the three jurisdictions divide that among themselves based off the formula that we use for operating. The video wall would be one of those items. It's rare. We don't run into this a lot, but this certainly would be one of those items.
Okay. Gentlemen, are there other questions, comments?
Where is this money gonna come from, Carl?
So this amount specifically would be outside of the general operating costs that we budget to transfer to EMA. And so this one would need to be an additional set aside. We could,
Is
possibly,
that in this budget or next year's budget?
it would need to be in fiscal '24.
Okay.
We were not aware, Judge Robertson briefed me on this, I think a week and a half ago. I had already submitted my budget to the council at that point, so that's why I asked that Mr. Lally and his team come make the presentation today.
Okay, and I did specifically ask it be a informational brief because as you can tell, some of us, particularly on the finance committee, are grasping around at what the background of this is, and then we will have to come back to you and ask for specific recommendations on where it would come from if we decide to fund it.
Yes, sir.
Any other questions, comments? Nick, anything else you want to leave with us?
No, sir, unless you got any questions.
No, thank y'all very much for coming in.
Thank you for
Thank y'all
Thank
for
y'all.
being here.
All right, let's see, where am I?
Financing option.
Item, let's see, we're on item number 10, right? Fire station number 6, financing options. The standard.
Yes, sir. So if you will look at the large piece of paper that's in front of you, and I know it had to be large because it is some small print. If you will recall, back during the capital budget adoption, there was $6 million proposed for financing of the Fire Station Number 6 construction. What was approved was a $2 million set aside, and then the remaining to be financed through some type of debt vehicle. What you have in front of you is some quick debt vehicle options by local banks that we have vetted. The first one being a revolving line of credit. It's a 24-month line of credit that is offered by, is it Regions or Synovus? Is it Synovus? Okay.
Is this from an existing LOC, or have we closed all those out?
All of our lines of credit have been closed
Alright,
out,
good.
so this will be a new issuance. And every single one of these issuances, the issuing cost will be about $10,000 for just an initial issuance, and then the interest rates are different per option. So this first one of a 24-month revolving line of credit, the full indicative rate is 5.25%. Due to the drawdown nature of the project, we are anticipating that required debt service in year 1 would be $158,000. Year 2 would be $210,000, and then that's just interest only. Obviously, we recommend paying off a piece of the principal as well every year. Because it's a 24-month revolving, I do suggest that we take that into 2 large chunk bites. Per the agreement for the line of credit, it would not be due until the end of the extinguishment of the line. Total estimated life of interest payments, if we kept it at the 24-month period, is about $370,000. One of the options that was discussed previously by council is possibly rolling a line of credit into a new bond issuance. If we were to do that with the rates that are going, the total amount for financing $4 million would be about another $3.2 million over the life of the loan. Option
Over a 20, 30 year?
over a 30-year
30
life.
year.
Mhm. Yes, sir.
Avoid that.
Option B is a 5-year traditional bank financing, so just like a general loan over a 5-year period. That indicative rate is about 4.7%. The total annual debt service for that is $900,000, and the life interest payment, so over the total 5 years, we will pay an additional $500,000 in interest. Option C is really a hybrid of those two. It's what you would consider a construction style loan, where you will do a drawdown on a line of credit until full construction is over, and then you will transition that into a long-term debt issuance. That long-term debt would be about another 5 years. We have a 24-month line of credit drawdown period. The indicative rate for that style currently is 5.23%. Again, with the drawdown style and the interest that will be paid out over those, you can kind of see in that bottom box. Annual debt service in the first couple of years, interest only, $157,000, $210,000 for year 2, and then on into the full loan amount would be annual debt service between years 3 and 5 would be $1.4 million. Total estimated interest payments over the life of the loan would be another $700,000. These 3 options are obviously would need to be budgeted. We have not budgeted any amount for either interest or principal debt service in the fiscal 24 budget.
Did we not put a placeholder in? I thought we discussed that.
I think we put in like about $175,000 for just general interest payments. But every single one of these pretty much spans over that.
But not in 24, right? Every one of these does not exceed that amount in 24.
So if we are paying interest only and we're not paying off any principal, then we have option A and option C that will come in under the $175,000. However, like I mentioned, from a conservative financing standpoint, we will need to in some way pay down principal and plan to pay down principal. I am hesitant to extend principal payment too far into the future, because one of the things that we are planning on to be able to pay for the RSA transition is the free up of debt capacity. So hopefully we'll have like some debt payoffs come up, and then we would be able to set aside that budget amount for RSA conversion. So I'm hesitant to add in much principal payment past 3 years from now.
And Chief Smith, or who is the lead dog for putting the bid out?
Eric's group will be.
And what's the status of that?
We need to secure the funding first before we can move to bid.
Everything other than funding is ready to push the green button and launch the bid.
I mean, might be a week away. We could get everything together in a week.
Okay, so you might be a week away. All right. Gentlemen, is there any discussion, any questions, any comments? Is there any sense of whether you want to try to decide this on the spot at the table? Do we want to take this and use the intervening week between now and when Mr. Thompson has said it would take him to pull the paperwork together to discuss it and come back with a decision next week? What do y'all want to do?
I think that's fair. Do that. Decide next week.
All right, so does anyone want to make a motion to table this for decision and vote till next week?
So moved.
Second. Table.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you, Ms. Standard. Where are we? All right, that takes us off the page, I think, through all the items on the agenda. I had mentioned in pre-council that I felt like I did not do an adequate job of getting airing to what's involved in the proposed use of $145,000 of opioid settlement fund. Chief Smith, do you want to start and come up, and this is your baby?
Yes, sir. Good afternoon again, council.
So the proposal is for, well, just review the proposal. What's the ask?
The proposal's for, I believe it was $145,000 and some change. This would fund our 2 currently employed social workers for 1 year. This would,
Fund our
instead
2
of,
currently employed social workers.
yes, sir, instead of their salaries coming out of the regular salary line, it would come out of this opioid funding.
Are they in the regular salary line for 24?
Yes, sir, they are.
They are.
Yes.
So are we
They're not
gonna,
new positions.
are we gonna take that money back since you don't need it and we approved it?
No, sir, there's an offset, so in the budget currently, there's an offsetting opioid funding usage amount of 145. and
Okay,
then
so
there-
in the current budget, the fact that 145 to pay for 2 social workers would come from opioid settlement as opposed to your personnel costs, is that
Yes,
what it
sir.
was? Is in there, and where does that 145 go?
The revenue line is in an other operating revenue line item amount.
Within TFR or?
No, sir, within the
writ
general
large
fund,
for the
within
city?
the overall general fund.
Okay. Gentlemen, questions, comments? When did this come up, Chief Smith?
We had discussed it during our budget presentation with the mayor. We discussed looking at different ways we could utilize some of the funding, and this is the one that was selected.
We pushed our department heads to, we want, again, as you heard me say last week, we wanted to get that pay increase into the budget. And so we pushed our department heads, accounting and finance, to find ways to do it. And one of the ideas was that by taking the opioid settlement dollars, it has the net effect of freeing up $145,000 in general fund dollars.
So it was not in the recommendation presented to us, correct?
It was.
It was.
In the
Your
2024? In here?
Yes, sir.
Holy cow. I'm gonna shut up before I get deeper in trouble. Where was it?
It's in the other operating revenue.
Other operating revenue.
So along with the.
But there was,
So there's 3.
so in general agency funding, we showed 2 line item opioid settlements, right?
Yes, sir.
Settlement fund payments. This
2
was not in
agencies that are
there.
Correct, because EMS prevention is not an outside agency to the city. And so the expenditure lines that are going to be used for this activity are within the Tuscaloosa Fire Rescue general operating budget. You know, I think the 2 social workers are currently on staff. Their salary lines are currently paid for out of the salary line in TFR, so they will continue to be paid for out of the salary line in TFR. All we are doing is adding in an additional transfer in, a revenue line basically, from opioid funding to be able to utilize that offsets the 145 that's already in their operating budget.
So does that 145 go to our general surplus availability?
Yes, sir. So,
Okay.
it basically goes to like the revenue side, and then there's on the expenditure side, and then the bottom is the surplus.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Gentlemen, any other comments, questions? Okay, I think,
And I'm sure that, I mean, qualifies because of the work they do, that it can be used for that, correct?
Yes, sir. And that's
Mr.
it.
Hobbs, that is a north-south nod, correct?
And as a matter of fact, the actual provision of these dollars, just say this very briefly, the dollars for this specific appropriation would come from the McKesson settlement fund. And there is a specific provision in that settlement fund that authorizes a use for supporting the work of emergency medical systems, for peer-to-peer support, basically social work type services that the EMS prevention program here provides. And that language is cited in the resolution.
Good,
Yes.
excellent. Chief Smith, between my memory and some of the material that was presented, this, do I understand it correctly, is this oriented towards trying to stop people from thinking of our emergency medical folks as a taxi?
Yes, sir, to a certain degree, you're correct on that. This program is kind of morphed over the last several years from initially called the Action Program, where we were in a joint venture with the University of Alabama, mainly responding to low acuity calls. It kind of morphed from there into looking at how we can prevent some of those low acuity calls or reoccurring calls where we go on the same call.
What is acuity?
It's just the level of care that needs to
Okay.
be provided. But this allows us to help, people that need help without having to pick up the phone and call 911. As I said during our budget hearing, if you can think of it, people call us for it. EMS prevention has been able to provide a service that there's gaps in the service in the community, and they've been able to fill that gap very well. Over the last year, we've been working with the mental health officers through Tuscaloosa Police Department to help with some of their reoccurring callers to 911 for the police services, and we've been successful in reducing a lot or eliminating a lot of those calls also.
All right, thank you very much. I don't have any other questions or comments.
Thank you.
Are you going out to Crescent East
Yes, sir.
next week?
I believe it was next week. Yes,
Mr.
sir. I
Fail,
sent you
you
the
had-
invite. I can send it again.
John, do you?
Mr. Fail, you had a question?
Does the UA is not affiliated with that?
No, sir. The university is no longer affiliated with us. That was in 2018-19.
It's an outstanding program.
Thank you,
Yeah, I
sir.
think and it's one of the first ones in the country, I think.
It is. There's some similar to it, but we've presented, across the country to other departments have kind of started modeling things after the way we're doing them here.
All right,
Thank you.
thank you very
Thanks,
much.
Chief.
Is there any other business to be brought before the Finance Committee?
No, sir.
You gonna bring it here, committee?
He can't bring anything up, despite what he thinks, he cannot.
I could just go straight to council.
You could.
Well, that makes it more interesting. You wanna do that?
I'd rather not.
How do you wanna, just
If, I know we have talked about additional funding for Visit Tuscaloosa. If one of y'all wants to intro that and bring up a decision, we'll listen to it. We'll-
I mean,
I think first, since it's not on the agenda, Brandy, I believe I have to actually have unanimous approval to do that, correct?
Correct.
Okay, all in favor of permitting a discussion and possible vote on additional funding for Visit Tuscaloosa, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay. Now, is there anything you want to bring up?
Mr. Chairman, there have been, there were discussions, I don't know, a couple weeks ago when we started this about funding Visit Tuscaloosa with $85,000 more a year. And
I would like to propose that we fund that $85,000 by taking it out of the council's discretionary, or outside services fund, right?
Yes, sir.
And we would reduce that from 175 to 90,000.
Second.
Can I ask a, sorry,
Yeah.
I
Wait a
have
minute, let's
questions, hang on. This is totally fine, so but just so that we know how to do it appropriately for, procedure. So 85,000 out of the council's outside services
Yes.
in fiscal 24 or in fiscal
20
23?
Fiscal 24.
For fiscal 24. Okay,
2023.
Well, we haven't spent any of that money. I mean,
We haven't spent
We
any
haven't
money.
spent any of that money, cause, I mean, that.
That's what I think.
We did, we
2023.
spent some bond credit rating
but we
money.
got the money back, but we got
Right.
reimbursed it.
So
Should
why not
have.
get it out of 2023?
We can.
We can.
this is
Can
my,
we do
this is,
that?
this is, the only reason I suggest doing it that way is because I can bring a budget revision next week that can be doubled up, that we so you guys see them kind of every week.
Right.
That's an easy one to do for fiscal 23, and then we can cut the check pretty much immediately.
That'd be
If we do it
fine.
for fiscal 24, because it's on the council agenda now, you would have to make a motion from the floor in council chambers.
So
and-
can I suggest, gentlemen, that the action today is to request a budget revision discussed for next week?
That's fine with
That's
us.
fine.
Absolutely.
Okay, that.
Second.
That can be my motion. Thank you,
All in
Carly.
favor, say aye.
Thank you.
Aye. Any opposed?
Thank you for making it a little bit easier.
And,
We want to make it easier.
and for the record, I played by the Busby Finance rules.
Would you like, would you like to be recognized to speak, Mr. Tyner?
Please.
Go ahead.
I said I played by the Busby financial rules and I did,
It will be.
So that's even better because it's not.
He did put it in
I
writing.
did submit it in writing to the finance chair.
Wow.
Well, you're a good man.
The fact that I didn't read it is another issue altogether.
Another failing point on him.
All
So
right.
you did not have to face the firing squad
Is,
then, right?
is there any more business to be brought? You have stood up, Chief Smith.
Yes, just to address his question, Counselor, the 28th from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m.
Okay.
At Crescent East. It's a social.
Thought you were fixing to ask for more money.
Need a motion to adjourn, Mr. Chairman.
Can we, is there a second? All in favor say aye.